So, Silas, what made you get into music?
Well, it all started when I was 3 years old. So I grew up in this little town just 2 hours south of Brisbane, a place called Stoker's Siding. There was only about 30 kids in the whole school. But they used to have frequent bush dances in the local hall. So we went along to one of these, me and my family, and I saw this person playing fiddle, aged 3, and I was just blown away by how amazingly just visual and energetic it was, and the sound coming out of this thing. So yeah, I was just tugging on my dad's shirt going, oh, I want to play that, Dad. And yeah. They found a local violin teacher and got me some violin lessons, and then not long after that is piano lessons, and then off to the con I went after school, and yeah, here we are.
Then he had really long hair apparently. I've only seen photos.
Yeah. Rocking out.
That's
musicians sitting at home praying.
You ended up playing with chicks with dogs.
Women in docks,
Is it women in dogs? Okay.
Yeah,
Kind of like chicks in dogs, actually.
Yeah, it's shorter. It's more Australian.
And how did that come about?
You have to imagine pubs in Brisbane back in the day were a little bit rougher. And so they kind of had this covers gig. I'd just kind of come in. I had the violin with me, and they're just having the most shocking gig ever, not because their playing wasn't great, but just because the bar had been invaded by this crowd of footballers. They're just going, play something good, and kind of heckling. So they're about to start their second set. I went, oh, look, do you mind if I jam with you guys? I've got my fiddle. And they're like, yeah, sure, get up. This couldn't get any worse. So yeah, that was it. I just played a set with them, and they went, oh, we've got another gig next week. Do you want to come and play on that too? And so then that's how it kind of started. We kind of went and played all the major festivals in Australia. We went to Canada and America and New Zealand, and just had a lovely time traveling the world, playing great songs.
Great, good stuff. So Sarah, question for you.
Yes.
What leads someone who started in orchestras moving on to playing folk music?
Hey. Yeah, I was sort of doing the classical thing at Vcass, and I was 15, and I was friends with a Jewish family, and she had all this lovely klezmer music, and so we started a world music sort of klezmer trio, and yeah, that's where I grew a love for world music, and of course my auntie used to, my auntie Redenda, she would always put on the river dance and the Lord of the Dance. I used to love all that stuff. I love being able to go from one world to the other, and for me, music's freedom. So especially when you go into the improvisation world. So yeah.
I think that European folk fiddle stuff, it sounds so good on the violin, and especially solo violin, yeah. And I think maybe in orchestras you can sometimes feel a bit anonymous.
It's a different world, and it's a beautiful world as well, being part of a huge, huge sound. I'm a conductor for one of the Melbourne youth orchestras, and hearing the sound of like that tapestry come to life is unbelievable. And then being, I guess, the only violinist in a group, you can really explore from an improv point of view and bring that passion. I mean, my teacher was this big romantic Russian fiddle player from the MSO, and he just, the passion in every violin lesson. More vibrato, you need more passion.
I think a lot of classical musicians who kind of pivot into bands or even into something like jazz where there's more of that improvisation element, it's because they're looking for that sort of creative part that isn't necessarily there in classical music. I mean, it sometimes is. There's some amazing recordings of, Bobby McFerrin and Chick Corea playing Mozart concertos where they improvise the cadenzas and stuff, which is really cool. Yeah.
It's great to, have that foundation of being a classical musician.
Everyone's
to keep
born
it fresh.
to create stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, I think the reason people sort of just are so excited about uploading photos of their food on Instagram is because for years the only way that most people were able to kind of experience things as consumers. You know, you sit down and consume TV or the movies or whatever. But when the world made that leap that anyone can be a creator in some sort of form, you know, you just got to get a phone and you can send it out to the world.
Yeah, you can be a photographer, you can be a videographer, a musician, you can do anything. Garage bands, your friend.
It's a magical, amazing thing.
Just talking about Eastern musicians. When I was touring and I was in London, and we were in this Hungarian restaurant, and these two gypsies come in dressed in beautiful suits, and one played piano, accordion, and the other guy played violin. They were like two angels singing together, and the way they played their instruments and the tone of their instruments was just unbelievable.
There's something that some of those Eastern European players, or that particular sound, they tap into something, and it's to do with the expression, the vibrato. It's just, it makes you melt, and
it's incredible.
It's wailing, even when you hear a vocalist do that as well. It's unbelievable.
Their voices were just incredible, and then they pulled me aside and they said, "You're like us, brother. Sit down and we'll buy you a dinner." And then I offered them, I said, "Look, you know, how about we get together and I just record you guys?" And I think that was a no-no. And so they sort of said, "Look, we run a tie business. We sell silk ties at the local market, and then during the evenings we come and play at restaurants, and we just bask basically at restaurants." But they looked incredible. They sounded incredible. They had everything going for them. And that to me is the essence of Eastern music. Because they were from Romania, I think, or Czech Republic. I can't remember. It was from one of those two places. But that violin has been brought down by his great father. You know, it was hundreds of years old, this violin. You know, and the tone of it was just like silk. You know, like there was no real harsh notes. It was just incredible, man. It was just incredible.
That's how the music is actually passed down as well. Like, as well as the instruments. There was none of this sheet music or anything. It's like, son, you sit down, I teach you how to play, and this is.
It's all about sound. And for me, music's always been, and for you too, it's always been a really family kind of thing. So some of my earliest memories of making music has been with my family. We'd all get in the shed, and some people could play, some people couldn't, but everybody would kind of give it a go. It wasn't really a career or a kind of a serious thing. It was just people getting together and having fun, like a party,
a family
or a conversation.
Yeah,
exactly.
Totally. And same here. Hey, or even with Dad now, he'll get on the piano accordion. I just remembered like getting into the studios from back in the day. It was all because of you, Petey. You used to drag me into the studio when I was doing my work experience for music. Right. I know, I remember. I was there all night helping with the tea and the coffee at Woodstock. Yeah, it was good.
They put you on tea.
Those were the days.
Did you learn how to roll leads?
Yes, Petey taught me.
Yeah. Nice.
See, learn a lot.
So where do you see folk music going?
I mean, you got to keep creating, and you know, it's telling those stories of the day. I guess, you know, when a big thing like a pandemic happens, it inspires, you know, songwriting in a way that, it's true to the time.
How do you see it post-pandemic?
We've got ideas about where we're going to take our little corner of the folk music world.
But in terms of festivals and things like that,
I don't think festivals are going to be back anytime soon.
Yeah, and
like
that's
as you
the sad
said,
thing.
it's basically going to come down to, do they come up with a vaccine? And what we still don't know is if it's one of these kind of flu-like things where it changes slightly every year, so they need a different vaccine. And in that case, we might never see a festival the same way again. I mean, it's hard to imagine, but that could
who knows?
be the case.
I'm loving that there's ideas all around the world coming out, like drive-up,
the drive-in
kind of
gig kind of
gigs.
idea. Yeah, so they basically just took a drive-in theatre, put a band where the screen is, and they did this gig while everyone sat in their cars, safely sanitising away and watching this band.
I'll be like, everybody horn on three.
Yeah,
go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
We will rock you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Something like that.
Well, you know, those Northern Europeans always come up with the best ideas, right?
Yeah.
You got to hand it to them.
Yeah.
So
Danishes.
Sarah, what happens to people who go through the VCA and Vcass en route to becoming an orchestra player, and where do they end up?
That's a really good question.
Depends on if there's a pandemic or not.
Yeah, at this stage, it's a little bit up in the air. So you hopefully progress from the high school to the tertiary, and then hopefully either audition for an orchestra, or you could get creative and write your own music and create your own bands and things like that. I feel quite fulfilled being able to have done that, and being a conductor, I still feel like I'm in that sort of that classical world where I'm sort of still passing on.
It's pretty incredible to be able to have one-on-one time with teachers who are just absolutely at the top of their game. Yeah, if music is what you want to do, then you should absolutely
avenue.
Give yourself the best shot. Just find the best musician in your town and get them to teach you something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you'll save a lot of time.
But I guess my point is, they're gearing those kids up to play in orchestras, and there's only so many spots in orchestras, and it's very competitive. And so what happens if you don't make the cut? Where do they end up?
Well, some of them went overseas. There's the Juilliard or there's Yale, or there's a lot of amazing places in America.
That's just continuing the school.
Well.
The school life, but in terms of professional life, like trying to get into a professional orchestra, don't matter where it is in the world, but if you don't make the cut, because it's very competitive, there's only so many people who can obtain that,
I guess I think about all of my peers at the con. It's incredibly surprising how many of them have landed on their feet. I think all of them. So
in some way or another.
A bunch have become really great music teachers at great schools. Some of them have kind of pivoted into medical careers or music therapy. There's a lot of
avenues for anyone in the arts, because they start getting really creative, going in amazing directions.
I guess just because all the skills that music teaches you in terms of resilience and problem solving and just all of this great brain expanding stuff, it makes it incredibly easy after you've studied music at a high level to go and pivot into something that's equally advanced. Yep. And that's why it is a strange thing that there's often this idea that, we can just cut from the arts because they're this unessential thing.
We played just after the bushfires. We were on a tour with the Royal High Jinx, and we had to go to Malakuta, and they were only letting in essential services. The people were saying, we need this for our mental health.
And after we did the show for them, we just got so many people coming up. This was about a month after the fires. And they were saying, this is honestly the first time I've smiled
happiness
and
again.
Felt any joy.
And these people have lost their houses.
Since the fires happened. I mean, it's like your experience in the restaurant.
They were able to qualify me, I guess. They don't suffer fools.
Yeah, they see it straight.
They can see the truth,
Yeah.
And that's generally when I'm working with African American people or the Indigenous people. Or They always say the same thing to me. You're the truth. That's why we work with you. That's why we love what you do and all that sort of stuff. It's a very interesting concept to have that ability to not suffer fools, I think. And
the natural wisdom, But it's probably been slightly hammered out of some of us from years of McDonald's and
well, it's food, it's a whole range of stuff.
TV.
Yeah, but that's the thing now. We're looking to our Indigenous brothers and sisters about how do we look after this land, and it's really, really important.
Well, I hope they take note of that, because it's one thing asking for the help, but it's another thing actually getting the resources and employing the right people to give you that wisdom and embracing that and making sure that actually occurs, because. We've had a double blow, double punch. We've had the bushfires, now we've got corona, so it's a heavy thing to sort of take in less than 6 months.
I think corona has shown that if push comes to shove, you can find the money from somewhere.
Well, they seem to, but we'll be paying that. Your children's children are going to be paying this back. That's the downfall of it. So
the reason that governments probably don't like to run up a lot of debt is that when they do, the people who end up hurting the most are the ones that have lots of money to begin with. Not that that's a good or bad thing. I mean, at some point, someone's going to end up paying taxes, and it's either going to be the poor people or the people in the middle or the rich. But usually the rich, the rich got rich for a reason, and they usually figure out a way to hang on to their money. This idea that a government and a household are the same thing in terms of, your money coming in has to match your money going out. It basically says, well, that's a fallacy, because whereas a household, the only money that you can get is from your work or your business or wherever you earn it, a government can actually print more money. And that doesn't mean in practical reality that you can just print money forever. There's a lot more that the government can do in terms of adjusting money supply.
That's what happens when you have a more left-wing government, that they look after the public in their jobs. Back in the 70s and 60s, we used to have the government. We used to have the Australia Post, which was run by the government. We used to have the electrical company, which was run by the government. The gas company was run by the government. So there was a whole range of industries that were running
absolutely
that were running at a loss, but they employed a lot of people. They made an industry, and they made it. I think that was a good thing. The government running those things, because private industry shows that they're all about cost cutting and making a profit before they make something safe. But anyway, let's get back to growing up in northern New South Wales, Silas, and what led you to
those carefree days.
What led you to come to Melbourne?
Melbourne's awesome, but I think the main reason I came, not just for the coffee, it was this idea of going to somewhere where there was this really diverse musical ecosystem. In Brisbane, there were really only 2 or 3 venues, and they all played kind of indie bands most nights. But Melbourne, 4 or 5 months ago, just about any night of the week, there'd be 250 venues running, and they'd be running this diverse range of music, ranging from like rock to indie pop to jazz to world music.
And classical concerts everywhere.
Burlesque, classical concerts. And that's not including all the house concerts that are kind of scattered around.
Yes, I think house concerts are going to save the world.
And Melbourne's always appealed to me as being just a hub for this kind of thing.
Did you tour? Were you touring in Melbourne and then you sort of found that out, or was it just by reputation?
Well, it's always had the reputation. I mean, we did a few tours. If you really want to blow some money, tour as a band interstate.
You learn a lot, don't you?
It's a fantastic way to just lose a lot of money. Yeah, I think we made all our mistakes before
we actually met.
We met. And so now we just know exactly what we're doing.
Because our first, national tour and international tour, it was surprisingly, we didn't lose, which was the nice thing.
Oh, yeah. Our
Germany
tour to Germany,
a lot of fun.
As you have toured and travelled all around the world, what place resonates personally with you?
Definitely Germany.
That was our best tour to date. There's probably still some places we'd like to try. And anyone who's listening who wants to give us a go, then please hit us up at our Facebook website and all the things. But Germany was great.
Oh, we've got these beautiful friends. They're from the Bees, Rob and Dieter. They're just beautiful people. A couple as well. I don't know, something about couples. The other half of it, the Royal High Jinx are a couple, Jen and Tez as well. And
it's like a couple of couples.
Yeah, a couple of couples. I don't know, it's like a magic formula. But they come over for 6 months to Australia, go back to Germany. And Dita, she set up a whole tour with us, and these amazing festivals. The people over in Germany, they love music like we love football over here. And it was magic. We were singing, laughing, clapping, cheering all together. It was a beautiful vibe.
It's just hard to communicate just how into music Germans are. There was this one festival, I think the last one we did, we were doing these kind of outdoor performances. So they'd set up a PA for us in the middle of a town square and just let us go. Now, if that happened in Melbourne, we'd kind of go there.
The guy comes with the DV meter.
People would just, but they'd just sort of walk past and they'd do their shopping. They'd sort of take it in a little bit, but they wouldn't really care.
And the fun police would come.
Yeah, with the pepper spray. But in Germany, We started busking, and within about 30 seconds, a small crowd had formed. It was in the middle of their summer, so it was this boiling hot day. And so these people were kind of watching us in the middle of the
Sweltering.
direct sun, sweat's kind of running down their faces. They're just burning, but they're just standing there. They're just, watching. They're loving it. They're like, this is music. This is life. This is the whole
You're
reason
making
to be
my soul
alive.
sing.
It was so good.
Being burnt to a crisp and
But
still
being-
standing there. It's incredible.
Yeah, it was so different
It's
to
a
be
different
sort
world. Any place that doesn't really appreciate the music that's happening, it's like they're missing out on the secret in the room. They're like, there's always an offering there, and it's a really special thing if you actually pay attention.
Yeah.
It also comes a bit down to oxygen. One of the other amazing things about the whole COVID thing has been, even though there is absolutely no sport running, because it's been all just completely shut down like everything else, they are still doing 10 minutes of sport reports on the news
nothing.
every night.
I mean, it's filler. They have to do it because it's part of their segment.
But man, they could fill it with so many musicians running concerts from their bedrooms and like orchestras doing
There's
amazing
a lot of
stuff.
amazing things going
There's tons of it going on that they could pick any one of those and
That's
go,
right.
okay, we're going to just show 10 minutes of a really great band you mightn't heard of.
That would be a better use of
Yes,
time.
totally. Thank
But
God for the ABC. Like they do stuff,
Bits of
similar.
it. But there's just been an awful lot of spending this 10 minutes of kind of what can we focus everyone's attention on?
I think
Just
they're
going-
scared that people are going to forget what sports are.
I remember a couple of years ago there was an AFL footballer who had been rubbed out because of some misdemeanors that he had done, and his father had passed away or was suffering with severe lung cancer. And there he was outside the hospital smoking a cigarette. And I just
Right.
made a comment, you should take heed of what your father's going through. You should stop smoking, And the amount of barrage I got on social media for
Really?
saying that, and I just had to close it down. I just said, Jesus, all I said was maybe he should look at himself because his father's dying of cancer. He
Actually,
should stop smoking,
common sense. Yeah.
But
Now, there's too many trolls out there, Petey.
it's
Stay away
incredible.
from
So what was the barrage? Was it like, how dare you?
it was just like, what
How
are you,
dare
oh,
you?
look, worse than that, man. It was like the F word, you're a dickhead, it was the whole, I was getting really full
solid
on
arguments.
solid
Yeah.
arguments, by random people who would, especially Melbourne supporters, because the guy played for Melbourne at that stage, and they just went crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Defensive. Yeah,
You know?
totally. Took the
But,
defense.
Isn't tribalism a wonderful
Oh, it's
thing?
incredible.
I just look at what's happening in America at the moment as
oh, yeah, the riots.
They've had riots like this before in 91 and 67, and they've had them in the last, say, 40, 50 years. They've had quite a lot of but this one's different, and that's what I was trying to sort of explain. I think this one is fueled by not only
Hatred.
African Americans, but social economic lower class white people who are disenfranchised, amongst the Latinos who are disenfranchised,
So
the
their leader.
African Americans who are disenfranchised, the Native Americans who are disenfranchised. I mean, there's a whole range, and that's why I think it's to the extremes that we're seeing now, which is, and you fuel that with covert, and you fuel that with lack of jobs, and you fuel that with everything else that's going around it. This is unprecedented.
there have been plenty of other places in history where they've started with this kind of blend of things where they're kind of looking after their people reasonably well, and then they just slowly wind them all back so that basically the interests of the many can be controlled by a few people who are kind of making all the money off the top. If you hoard too much power, eventually you create this situation where there's this massive riot and none of your money's worth anything if people are kind of chasing after you with torches and pitchforks.
Well, I think they went wrong from the start when they let people have guns.
If you just give people basic things like decent education and universal health care,
Minimal wage.
yeah,
Exactly.
people often say, oh, we don't have enough money to afford this stuff. But it's amazing. If there's something like COVID, which threatens the whole production line, people suddenly find the money to prop everything
They
up.
sure do. I mean, they find the money to be able to, press buttons to let go of missiles and things. So.
That's the thing. So the saying that, oh, we just don't have the money is just it's
it's
lie.
an excuse.
If you look at the last, say, 30 years, we've had the 87 crash. We've had the 2000.com crash. We've had the 2008 home mortgage crash. Now we've got Corona. So, you know, that's 4 major economic crashes during a 30-year period. That's unprecedented. And if you even want to go back a little bit further into the early 70s when we had the oil that's when
crisis.
the oil crisis, and that was also another recession, and which went into the early 80s. I mean, the last, say, 60, 50 years, 55 years, 60 years, you know, haven't been that great. I mean, if you look prior to 1965, I mean, it was booming, you know. I mean, you could walk out of one job, go to another. There was plenty of work. There was plenty of opportunity. People were happy, you know. There was a lot of good, positive things going on. But, there just seemed to be a huge shift back in the mid-70s when OPEC took over the fuel, you know, the from the Arabs, and the Arabs actually produced OPEC and started selling the oil back to the West at a higher rate, and that's what sort of changed.
Part of the problem is that we're just getting far, far more efficient at doing things. When I started doing music, if you wanted to record an album, you would have to get a bunch of musicians, go into a massive studio for $1,000 a day. You'd have to get engineers. There'd be this gigantic, beautiful mixing desk. You know, people would all sort of do it manually. There'd
Booths
be tapes
everywhere.
rolling. There'd be someone there to clean the tapes. There'd be 2 people making tea. Now, the last few albums we've put out, we've done them all on
At
an
home.
Apple Macintosh with, you know,
Oh, it's
sort of
incredible.
less than it would cost to run that studio for a day.
Oh, yeah.
Would buy all of the equipment that we've needed
Yeah.
to record the album many times over.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it's the same in every single industry. They're all just far more efficient at doing things.
Yeah.
So they're just not as employing as many people because one person can now produce the same output as 20.
less.
Another great thing about COVID is it sort of placed our focus away from this idea of, we just need to be continually growing and producing more stuff, and we need to grow more jobs and have more people working and stuff. We don't. We don't have to have everybody working flat out all the time to just keep the world running. The world will be fine.
You're working from home at the moment in your day job.
Yeah.
But are you finding that you're just as or even more productive than, you know, just having to commute 2 hours into the office every day?
Oh, it's way more fun working from home. I feel a lot happier. And so, you know, when you're happier, you're
produce
more
better.
likely to be receptive to just doing better work.
It's great. You write songs on your lunch break. It's great.
You play a lot of musical festivals. With COVID-19 and the finance pressure on festivals like Woodford, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, we were meant to play at the National Folk Festival in Canberra around Easter time, and they had to cancel. And you know, we had flights booked and everything, and but yeah, just the whole how much goes into putting on a festival, and a festival like Woodford is huge. There's some festivals that they even take like a year off just to get the earth and the soil to feel good again, to look after, you know, the nature side of things.
Yeah, festivals won't recover until there's a vaccine. Also, festivals need about 12 months
Just
to
plan,
organise
book
everything
the
involved in
artists.
putting on a festival. Now, I've never put on a festival, so I have
Volunteer.
no idea.
A lot of festivals are run by volunteers anyway,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's the heart and soul that goes into a festival. It's always, mostly run by volunteers, people who just love it.
We've spoken to a few organisers and it's a lot. So the point is, even if they managed to come out with a vaccine on Christmas Day, you probably wouldn't see a single summer festival until the following summer.
I mean, there's some good things happening, like Support Act helping, you know, music, like artists, you know, help get through this.
But I think it's fair to say we're probably not going to see festivals until 2022.
Yeah, that's a long way away, isn't it? When you think about
I'm wishing for a little bit earlier, but
No, but I think he's right. I think it's going to be a couple of years. I think it's going to be a couple of years. I mean,
What you will see is a bit of a reframing. You know, that drive-in festival, backyard house concerts.
House Concert's going to save the world.
Someone who's got a big backyard is going to, like, you know, invite a few
The
people,
50
probably
regulated people?
probably
Yep.
up to 50. They're all going to sit with their 4 square
Yeah.
meters apart
Get
in their
their
own chair
picnic.
with their own food, so there's no like cross contamination or anything. They're going to
Just
sit
hope,
there
just
in the
hope,
park.
hope you
Yeah.
don't get any gate crashes.
Well, that's it. Hey, you got to take your temperature at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
No,
different world.
basically it'll all be kind of secret location, pay in advance sort of stuff. So,
I mean, one of our very last gigs, we were playing with the Bushwackers on a cruise ship. Don't worry. This was just as it was all happening, though.
don't worry.
Don't worry.
But we had to get on, and they took our temperature and everything. And
What month was that?
March.
early March.
Oh, that late.
Early
Yeah.
March. Yeah,
Shit.
yeah,
We
yeah.
did 2 of those.
What cruise ship was it?
It was.
It wasn't the one that's
No,
got
no,
all
it wasn't the. Yep. It wasn't the bad
It
one.
wasn't a cruise ship ending with Princess.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
was a different cruise ship.
Yeah,
but the ventilation, who knows?
We took the test.
yeah.
We did get the test.
Yeah, I took the test and I'm all good. So we're all good.
Hey, we're all good. Hey.
That's it. All right. Well, thanks for your time, folks. I really appreciate you coming in to the Voodoo Room. It's been a pleasure talking with you both, and I wish you all the best for the coming future. And let's hope for a brighter day.
Thanks,
That's it,
Pete.
Petey.
No
You
worries.
too.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Lockdown 50 weeks ago. We're in lockdown. Only one place left to flee when voodoo strikes. It'll tear apart your head when voodoo strikes. You wish that you was dead when voodoo strikes. It'll tear apart your head when voodoo strikes.